Guys, what's going on? What's going on?
Entertain the Geeky.
That was a count in.
All right.
And it was Kung Fu. So,
Oh, what's up?
oh man. So you called me last night and you were like, hey, what do you want to talk about tomorrow? And I was like, man, people are really seeming to gravitate towards this Batman being a crazy person thing. So we don't have to do it with Batman, but we can do, just dive into comic lore a little bit and
Agreed.
all that fun stuff. So
I enjoy me some comic lore.
I know. And you were like, well, what if you're like, well, I know everything about the Ultimate Universe.
Everything is a stretch. I know a lot. I'm pretty well versed in the Ultimate Universe.
I'm willing to bet that you know just as much or more than guys that wrote in that universe.
I don't know about that, but I have read all the books. Plenty, and most of the main stories, your X-Men's, your Ultimates, your Spider-Mans. I know those stories forward and backward.
Right.
I mean, I've read them more than once. I couldn't tell you how many times. It's probably an embarrassingly high number, but I have read those comics a lot. And the Ultimate Universe, for those of you out there who may be unfamiliar, was an initiative started by Bill Jemas, Joe Quesada, all the people that were in charge of Marvel in the early 2000s, as a way for stories that are brand new being built from the ground up to have a more modern spin, right? So Spider-Man started in 1963, and it's great. There's nothing wrong with what that book was, but its time period is weirdly out of sync with where we are. So you read it, and it's still very much steeped in those tropes.
1960s.
Yeah, those
roots.
60s ideas. Yeah. So this was an initiative that was done to give people a chance to jump in on the ground floor of characters and see their stories being built from issue one, set in the modern days. The first one they launched was Ultimate Spider-Man. It launched in 2000 by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley. Then shortly thereafter, we had Ultimate Marvel Team Up, which was a weird series of books. It went to like 16 issues, I think. And it was a series of books where they just teamed Spider-Man up with some rando. So like the first one was Wolverine, then he teamed up with Hulk, then it was Iron Man. They introduced the ultimate version of Daredevil and Punisher in that story. A lot of these early ideas, though, weren't as fleshed out. When we actually got around to fleshing out and creating these characters within their proper place, some of the ideas were left behind. Team Up was just kind of a fun little what if type of book, I guess. Right. I mean, it wasn't intended to be what if. It was intended to be continuity, but because they changed so much of it as the time went on. Black Widow is in that story, and she got completely redesigned before they launched Ultimates. So she didn't even look the same. She looked, in the Team Up, she looked more traditional Black Widow with the costume with the little, that hourglass belt thing. And when we finally got around to getting her into the Ultimates, she just was a completely different character. She's more like a spy, secret agent type character.
Which is cool. Yeah. I can dig that.
But so, yeah, they launched Spider-Man Team Up. X-Men launched shortly after that. The first arc of X-Men was called The Tomorrow People, which I liked. I liked that, the sound of that.
Sounds rad.
Yeah.
These people are the future.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got Ultimates, which was their take on the Avengers. The first issue of which was a flashback issue that showed Captain America's day leading up to getting frozen, the battle and all of that stuff. So a lot of the things happened pretty much in the same way. Peter still gets bit by a spider. Cap still gets frozen in ice. Iron Man still creates a big suit. Like, it kind of all that stuff happened in the same way. Where the changes came in is the time period, how the characters interacted with each other. Spider-Man was in high school. A few people remember this, and I actually had an argument with a guy. Argument is the wrong word. We had a debate about Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15. Mm-hmm. He was in college in Amazing Fantasy 15. He was attending Empire State University. This guy was convinced, no, he was in high school. I was like, no, that was college-aged Peter when we first met him. He was a freshman in college when we first met him. So we never saw Peter in high school. There's, been subsequent stories that have taken us back to those days and shown us Peter in high school. But so Peter was young. He was 15, 16 years old when we met him in Ultimate Spider-Man. The X-Men were also teenagers, Jean, Cyclops, with the exception of Wolverine, because he's like immortal.
He's timeless.
So he was probably in his 50s, but still looked like he was in his 20s. Right. So, like I said, the changes came in and how the characters interacted. And right away, they showed us that they were going to play with our preconceived notions of who these characters were. The X-Men team that they assembled was Cyclops, Jean, Storm, Beast, Iceman, and Wolverine. So pretty much all of the original X-Men from the 60s and Wolverine. Because Wolverine didn't come about until 1975.
Right. And now he's a mainstay.
Yeah, he came around in the 70s, but he's such a popular character at this point that when they were relaunching the team, they said, "Oh, we'll include Wolverine." But they did it in a way again where they were kind of playing with our expectations. We meet Wolverine at the end of the very first issue of Ultimate X-Men. He's in the Savage Land. We see him, with his claws through like a dinosaur's head. He's obviously all messed up. He was just in a fight with some dinosaurs because why not?
That's what Wolverine does.
And the Savage Land was where Magneto was based.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out at the end of that first issue, Wolverine actually works for Magneto, and he sends him to infiltrate the X-Men because Wolverine's one of the only people that can get close to Professor Xavier without giving away the game, because he's got psychic blocks in his head put there by the Weapon X people. So it's impossible to read his mind unless, you can pick up surface thoughts, right? But it's impossible to delve deep into his mind. So Wolverine joins the team as a secret assassin to kill Professor Xavier. So right away, that was something that was very different from what we knew. Within that first arc, one of the characters betrays the team and runs away and joins Magneto. Have you read Ultimate X-Men?
Nope.
So if you had to guess among the list of characters that I just told you, who would betray Professor Xavier and leave the team?
If I had to guess,
join Magneto.
Jean Grey.
Good guess. It was Cyclops.
No shit.
Exactly. That reaction is the same reaction most of us had when we turned to that last page and he said, "Well, I guess I'll just go join the Brotherhood." We were like, "What? No.
You are the Boy Scout
Like
X-Men."
Cyclops?" Yeah. So Cyclops. A lot of the characters also got major power upgrades. Like Cyclops was a lot more powerful in the Ultimate Universe than he ever was in the regular universe. But so little things like that kind of just played with your own expectations of who these characters are. They were fun. Villains were introduced to us in different ways. The Green Goblin was a monster. He wasn't just a crazy guy in a goblin
mask,
rubber goblin mask. He actually turned into like a big hulking monster thing that could throw fireballs and fly.
Well, they've kind of run with that in the regular continuity as well at times.
In regular Marvel continuity, no. Into the Spider-Verse, yes.
What was he? There's some super goblin. I thought that was Norman.
There's Red Goblin, but that was Norman with the Carnage symbiote.
I am probably mixing up my goblins here.
I think you might
because there's so goddamn many.
There's a lot of goblins. But yeah, the Into the Spider-Verse movie that Sony did with Miles had that fight at the beginning, and Goblin is there, and he's definitely a monster throwing fireballs. Yeah. Right. So the inspiration that came out of the Ultimate Universe helped give rise to things like that. I would argue it helped give rise to the MCU. A lot of the portrayals of these characters were in the MCU were very much closer to their Ultimate counterparts than they were to their regular Marvel Universe counterparts, especially Spider-Man. Spider-Man, we started him with his saga when he was a sophomore in high school. So right away, that was very different than traditional Spider-Man.
Well, that even dates back to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know why those people put him in high school. Like that's, especially because Tobey Maguire does not look like a high school student.
So I think it's because...
Just make him a college student, right?
I think it's because that if you're getting picked on by some bully, does that shit happen in college? I don't think so.
Yes.
It happens in
absolutely.
high school for sure, though.
It does happen in high school for sure, but if they're like jerks go to college too, you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
on football scholarships or whatever. So college doesn't change people's opinions about, nerds or how they feel about them. So you can absolutely still get bullied in college. And he did. The problem I had was you had these 30-something-year-old people trying to play high school students. In that movie, you had Flash Thompson played by
Joe Manganiello.
Joe Manganiello, yeah, who was like in his late 20s, early 30s at that time. Because the guy's like 50 now, right? Like,
I mean, that was also, 20 years ago?
Well, yeah, but again, that's what I mean. The guy's in his 50s now, so he was in his 20s at that time, right? Like,
yeah, that is kind of wild, isn't it?
Right? And he was playing high school bully Flash Thompson.
You are in high school, my friend.
Yeah.
High five.
But so, even, like I said, even the portrayal of Iron Man, look, Tony's always been an arrogant guy, but as far as making jokes and quipping, that was not a regular mainstay of Tony as a Marvel character.
Sure.
Yeah, he made jokes and stuff, but that was not a regular feature of his character. Ultimate Iron Man, on the other hand, every other word out of his mouth was a quip. Like, literally, that's how he talked to people. He had, we found out later he had a brain tumor, but he had this weird coping mechanism where, like, he had to be funny all the time, right? Because that's just how he related to other people around him. So right away, there's that connection between those two characters. Bringing Captain America from 1940s into the early 2000s was how the Avengers did it, right? Like, we set that movie in the modern day. That movie is set in the year it came out, which was 2012.
Yeah.
2012. So the Ultimate Universe gave rise to a lot of the now common staples of what people think of when they consider Marvel. So it definitely has its place, right? It definitely has its place in the history. And it's so steeped. It ran for 15 years. It ended in 2015 when Jonathan Hickman did Secret Wars, because that's when he destroyed the Ultimate Universe. And it's fitting that he's the writer that's been chosen to bring it back.
Right.
Him and Brian Hitch are going to be doing, it's kind of why it was on my mind to talk about, because we talked about in a previous episode when we were talking about Comics Pro, the Ultimate Invasion, which is going to be the new story coming out in June. That's going to be the first miniseries that's going to kind of relaunch this Ultimate Universe initiative. So for sure, I'm very excited. I mean, I have definitely, followed this forward and backwards through the most ridiculous things like Ultimate Adventures. I have that. It's a 6-issue miniseries where it's basically just what if Marvel made Batman.
Oh, yeah.
It's bad. It's really bad. But it had an Ultimate logo on it. It had the Ultimate, branding. So
and that's all he needed.
Yeah, I bought everything that had the Ultimate. I had a standing order at all the comic shops I went to. If it's got Ultimate on it, I'll buy it. I mean, I even ended up, I didn't know this at the time, because how could you know what's going to be impactful, what's going to be valuable? But I apparently have one of the most valuable Ultimate comics ever printed in my collection. It was a 1 in 100 variant. 1 in 100, 1 in 50. I don't remember the exact ratio on it, but it was the variant of Ultimate Spider-Man #1 where they drop the background out and it's just white, and it's just the image of him swinging. Apparently, that thing's like $700-800 book. Didn't even know that.
So crazy.
I know. I didn't even know that.
I mean, you have that. You have all the Miles Morales stuff.
I do. I've even continued picking up Miles after they brought him into the main continuity.
I mean, you were already so invested in him as a character at that point. You couldn't not read him.
Yeah, I have his first appearance. That book's getting up there too.
I was gonna say that. I'm sure as soon as the new Spider-Verse movie comes out, that's gonna just shoot up in value.
That book's probably gonna peak. Honestly, I think it will probably peak a little further when in June when the Ultimate Universe is brought back, because Miles is apparently going to be at the center of this story. Miles and the Maker, that was another book that launched. We didn't talk about that one, but Ultimate Fantastic Four was interesting it's kind of loosely what that really bad Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie was based on. Well, I use the term loosely very seriously there. It's loosely. So there are elements it shares, like Ben and Reed being childhood friends, Reed doing experiments in teleportation in his garage, and that leading to the discovery of the negative zone. So that it shares. Everything after that, it's garbage. It doesn't share with the Ultimate Universe version
share with
of the
anything.
characters. Yeah, I don't know where he got the rest of that. And it's funny because if he just would have went with what they did in that story, probably would have been a much better movie. I'm not gonna say it would have been a great movie because it wasn't. A great movie.
Then they had that Rise of the Silver Surfer thing they did that was even more.
No, but see that was before this. What I'm talking about is that Josh Trank Fantastic.
Oh, when
that was in like 2000. I don't remember. 2000 teens somewhere, I think. You don't remember what I'm talking about? You must have blanked that one out of your memory.
Oh no! I know what you're talking about. The one that everybody
the one that had Miles Teller in.
Yes. Everybody.
Miles Teller played Reed, which I thought was good casting at the time. Also, that was the first time in my memory that I can remember internet outrage over making a white character black. Because that's happened a lot over the years. But that was the first time in my memory I remember people going, Johnny Storm is a white guy. I was like, what the fuck difference does it make? what difference does that make?
So
is he still a guy that snaps his fingers and catches on fire? Well, then what difference does it make?
Is he on fire?
Right. Like, most of the time he's going to be on fire. Not even going to be seeing his skin. Right.
Yeah. He's a fireman.
He's literally a fireman.
Just run with that. Yeah, no, I made a point not to watch that movie.
Yeah. I watched it just to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, I was agitated with I forget what it was. I think I had read something about the script or something like that, and I was all pissed off about what that movie was supposed to be, and I was like, oh, fuck
well,
this
Josh
movie.
Trank, I mean, initially the movie sounded intriguing. Josh Trank was the guy who did Chronicle.
Mm-hmm. Chronicle's a great fucking
Chronicle
movie.
is a great movie about random people getting superpowers, right? Like, so that's a great movie. It's shot very well. Apparently, there was a lot of interference from Fox and the pressure that he had on him from producers and stuff basically just kind of made him lose his mind a little bit. Like, he wasn't ready for that. Like, he went from doing Chronicle, which was a smaller budget
indie kind of thing,
to doing a big budget Marvel blockbuster through Fox. And I just don't think he was ready for that kind of pressure. Like, a lot of on-set people said he kind of lost his mind throughout the process. And he was very isolated. He became very depressed. So, like, I feel for the guy, right? That sucks. And I think it's a credit to, well, probably a detriment to, young Hollywood directors who want to come in being a little more careful about what kind of projects you accept, right?
Sure.
Like, because we've seen a couple of directors that's happened to, young directors who just got on board this thing and went, God, this was insane.
Well,
guys.
I mean, look at how look at the DC cinematic universe just in the last 10 years.
Yeah, but Snyder wasn't one of those guys that wouldn't be used to big budget stuff. Like, he had already done Watchmen and
so I'm not saying
300.
that. I'm not saying that. As far as like studio interference and stuff goes, like, yes,
yeah, of course.
Those guys are fucking tested and true. They've done lots of big budget movies with big studios breathing down their neck.
Right.
But Ben Affleck was set to write his own Batman movie
and direct it.
And he was getting so much shit from the studio. He's like, fuck this.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, you can still be Batman. He's like, I'll still be Batman, but fuck this.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. And he's like, no, fuck that. I'm not even Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but if not for that, we wouldn't have got Matt Reeves coming on board, and we wouldn't have seen the excellent Batman. Huh?
I'm not a fan of that one.
You're in how? Why?
I know. So for me, it was more the pacing of the movie than anything.
I mean, it has its problems. I'm not going to say it's a perfect movie, but the Batman stuff is great.
Yeah, it's cute.
And that's why I go to a Batman movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about Bruce Wayne.
I don't give a shit about Bruce Wayne here.
Neither did he, apparently.
I never had an issue with Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne.
I think he looks perfect.
I didn't care at all. I was like, okay, whatever.
It harkens back to that time before Batman was drawn as a super bulky, like, bodybuilder type guy, when he was just a guy. He's just a guy. He doesn't have super big muscles. He's smart. You know what I mean? That's his advantage.
Well, it doesn't mean he's in bad shape either.
No, he's not in bad shape, but he's not like, Hemsworth.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's how Batman's been drawn and animated more recently, as this kind of big, bulky bodybuilder guy. And I guess I understand the point of that, but I like the idea that when Batman is standing next to Superman, you're like, what? This guy's in the same league as this guy? Like, I like that idea. Exactly. It's like Wolverine being short, right? Like when you see him,
5'2",
he's like 5 foot nothing.
Yeah.
He's maybe a little higher than that, but still, like,
itty bitty.
It's funny, right? It's a nice little comparison of like, no, it's because this guy's just a guy. Like, he's not a god. He can't look like the god. He's just a guy.
Just a dude.
I just don't understand, though. Like, I think, pacing aside, every time he was in a crime scene, his interactions with Gordon, who was beautifully played, I think all of it was just so well done. The Riddler. I loved the Riddler.
There were parts of the movie that were good and enjoyable and stuff like that. Honestly, it like I said, for me anymore, pacing gets so weird in movies. Like the first Venom movie, I didn't like the movie because of the pacing. There was some cool shit that happened in the movie. I enjoyed a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
Poorly paced, and I don't know if that's an issue with editing or if it's an issue, or if the studio's like, no, you have to put this in there, but you got to do it after this. Because I'm sure that shit happens too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I don't want to say that it's all the director's fault or whoever's, whatever there.
Yeah.
It's something that, dude, you're showing it to a test audience and all kinds of shit. You can fucking fix stupid stuff like that. And you do this for a living. You know how to make a movie. Get your fucking pacing right, asshole.
I guess.
Your storytelling, prick.
It went on a little too long.
It lulls, yes.
That's the problem. I think in what you're talking about, if we could have cut out some of the less important moments,
some of the bullshit,
that would have not only fixed the length problem, but it would have fixed the pacing problem, because we wouldn't have been spending so much time with these little side stories. But honestly, I thought the side stories were all very interesting. I thought the Carmine Falcone stuff was very interesting. I love that they got John Turturro to play Carmine Falcone.
That was wild. As
soon as he came on screen, I was like, is that John Turturro? Oh, this is great. I love this movie.
They put a guy in a suit in that movie, and you were like, I love this movie. Come on.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's Colin Farrell playing Penguin.
Yeah.
Unrecognizable as Colin Farrell. He's going to go on. He's apparently getting a spin-off show where he takes control of Falcone's operation, because he was like the second guy, right? He's Oz. We got way off topic though. We were talking about the Ultimate Universe.
That's okay.
But they just did some very interesting things. A couple of the ones I want to call out was when the Sinister Six was formed.
Oh, the Sinister Six is so fucking cool too.
Yeah, the sixth member was Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was an interesting. He forced him to work for him because he kidnapped Aunt May. I say kidnapped because he let Peter believe he did that, but he actually didn't do that. S.H.I.E.L.D. picked up Aunt May right away and put her in protective custody as soon as Norman broke out of prison.
That's like the most comic book thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we got her. I got your Aunt May.
Yeah.
I don't got her.
Yeah, but Peter was a child. He believed it.
He's
you know
a kid.
what I mean? Like he absolutely believed if he didn't do what this guy was going to say, he was going to kill Aunt May and Mary Jane. He threatened Mary Jane too during that time.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing that was interesting though, was the relationship between Peter and MJ. It was so very high school. The way their relationship was on again, off again, on again. It was so high school. Like I was like, did you guys sit in a high school and just watch teenagers interact or something? Or do you have teenage children that kind of gave you some feedback? Like,
I mean, how old was Bendis doing Spider-Man still at that point in time?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So maybe
I feel like maybe he had children that were kind of giving him.
How old is that guy?
Now I think he's in his 50s.
Maybe he was. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe he was fresh enough out of high school.
No, not at that time. No, he was probably a little younger than us when he started this thing, right? Like, so yeah, no. But their the relationships between the characters were so very much in line with the modern day teenage life at that time, right? I mean, obviously it's not the same as it was in the early 2000s now, but what it was at that time, they nailed it. Like, And that blew my mind because, again, these are old dudes, right? That are long since left high school. How do you even have a grasp on what children talk, how children speak to each other at this point? So that was really, an interesting element. Like I said, the Sinister Six, the fact that mutants were not genetically superior. Mutants were not some genetic aberration. They were created in a lab. So Magneto's whole justification for who he was that we are the next stage in human evolution. No, you're not. You're a failed science experiment. That's what you are. That was devastating to people who knew the story, that Marvel had done for so long. Right? You were like, what? Wolverine was the first mutant because this was a science project that the people at S.H.I.E.L.D. and Weapon X were working on? Like, you are kidding me. That's insane. Wolverine, or not Wolverine, when they wound up to their first crossover event with all the characters, Ultimatum, that was... What?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just laughing at... the Ultimates, they have their first crossover event, Ultimatum. Ultimasochist.
Yes. Ultimatum. That was what it was called. And in that story, Magneto used his powers enhanced by machinery to flip the magnetic poles of the planet. Mm-hmm. It's like massive flooding. The whole world starts getting destroyed. New York just underwater. The beginning of that story saw Magneto confront Professor Xavier and Xavier compare him to Hitler. And that was like the last straw for Magneto. And he like snapped Professor Xavier's neck because he's wearing his helmet, right? Even in the Ultimate Universe, his helmet still blocked telepathic communication or control. So he just murders him. At the end of that story, Cyclops is so angry at Magneto that when they have him at their mercy, Cyclops just pulls his visor off and just unleashes the full force of his blast and just obliterates Magneto's head. I mean, it just turns to dust. So, like, that was early on. That was only 100 issues into most of these runs or less. So that was early on. Magneto and Xavier are gone. That's it. We're done.
Yeah, and a bunch of mainstays are already fucking
right.
dead.
We killed off various Ultimate characters. We killed off some of the Ultimate Spider-Man characters. We killed off a lot of the X-Men. Nightcrawler died. Angel died. Wasp got eaten alive by Blob because apparently in the Ultimate Universe, Blob was a cannibal. So Hawkeye and Hank are out looking for her, and they come upon this scene of her just dead, disemboweled, and just Blob is just shoving organs into his mouth. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, so not all the decisions they made were good decisions, right? That was a decision I was just like, why? But why?
The Ultimate Universe was fucking merciless because their whole thing, like the whole time it was alive, they were totally happy to fucking kill characters.
Oh, yeah. Nobody was safe.
Ever.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, dead.
Wolverine was safe, I think, because he's immortal, but no one else was safe.
Other than that, they're all fucking good as dead over there.
But yeah, so after the Ultimatum stuff, they had a line-wide relaunch, which is weird to say about a series that at that point was only like 5 years old. A complete line-wide relaunch, new titles, I think that was when they branded them Ultimate Comics. So it was Ultimate Comics Spider-Man, Ultimate Comics X-Men, Ultimate Comics Ultimates. They did do a couple of books. I think it was 3. Yeah, it was 3. They did do 3 miniseries that were titled Ultimate Avengers. That was where they introduced Ultimate Red Skull, who was like a secret child of Captain America, which also was a weird decision. That's a thing. That is absolutely a thing. In the Ultimate Universe, Red Skull is a secret child of Captain America.
Of course he is.
That ended up becoming super soldier-y like him. They did a couple of miniseries about Hawkeye because in the aftermath of Ultimatum, Hawkeye, his whole family was gone. Black Widow had betrayed the team. She killed his family. So like he was a suicidal, crazy person. He just threw himself into every situation, hoping somebody would just finally kill him and put him out of his misery. He didn't want to kill himself, but I mean, he behaved.
It was just totally reckless.
Yeah, he behaved in a way that was trying to get himself killed. And they did a miniseries about him. Jonathan Hickman actually wrote that miniseries.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, the Ultimate Hawkeye miniseries. He wrote that one. But then anyway, this wound around to a story called Avengers vs. New Ultimates, which was when they killed off Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced Punisher. They, reintroduced Punisher into the story. He was trying to kill Captain America because on the New Ultimates team, he was the Captain America.
Yeah.
Frank wore a suit and had a shield and everything, right? It was weird. But he ends up, Spider-Man like has spider sense, right?
Gets
he
in the
sees
way,
this coming and he pushes Cap out of the way and he takes the bullet for him. And then he dies. I mean, he fights off Green Goblin in a final climactic thing.
Yeah.
And then he just dies. And
oh my God, Captain America though, picking him up and telling him you did good, kid.
Yeah, well, and the hardest moment happened in Ultimate Spider-Man when in that last issue he's won, he's fought off Green Goblin, he's laying there, he's dying. Aunt May is there, Gwen is there, Mary is there, everyone's there, his friends, his family, and he looks up and he says to Aunt May his last words. He says, "Is it over?" And she says, "Yeah, you did it, Peter." And he says, "Oh, I saved you, Aunt May." And then he dies. Like it was a jerk, man. Like it was a heart-jerking type of moment, right? Other characters had died, but Peter you always assumed was safe.
Right.
He's Spider-Man, right? Like you didn't assume they were going to introduce a new Spider-Man with new different kinds of powers that was going to carry on his legacy. We had no idea about Miles at that point.
Right.
All we knew was this guy that had been our Spider-Man since issue 1 was dead, full on dead. And then so after that big crossover, they did the story, the Ultimate Fallout story, which is where they introduced Miles in issue 4 of Ultimate Fallout. He has been bitten. He's starting to, like Peter, realize that he has powers. And so he goes to a Halloween store, just like he does in the movie, and he buys a really bad Halloween Spider-Man costume. And that's what he wears. And he goes out and he starts to fight crime. And even the criminals he's fighting are like, "Too soon, man. Too soon. Spider-Man just died. Like, you're disgracing his memory." Like, so criminals, right? Like the people that are, trying to break into a house or purse snatch an old lady are even telling him like,
"Whoa.
No, bad decision, man."
Too funny.
And then after that, we launched Miles' own book. It was just Ultimate Spider-Man, and it was Miles. He had his own costume, the red, the black, the one we've become, accustomed to at this point. And he had different powers than Spider-Man, which was kind of cool. It was an interesting way to look at a character that we knew so well and change how he fights.
It was refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He finds out he can become invisible. He can go light negative in direct sunlight. Now, the problem is other stories later forgot that was how they set it up. He can only use that when he's in direct sunlight because there's a spider that can use direct sunlight in real life. I looked it up. There's a spider that can use direct sunlight to make its skin translucid. So it blends better, right? So like colors that are behind it become it, like chameleon circuit type thing. It doesn't actually change its color, but it becomes translucid enough that those colors behind it come through. So it just blends. And like I said, everybody seems to forget that. I mean, shit, when you're playing the Miles Morales video game, you can do it at night. You can just go invisible anytime. That's not how it was supposed to work. But we forgot about that as time went on. But the Widow Sting was always the same. The idea that he has this like bioelectricity that he can shoot you with or sting you with. That's another thing. Another spider. It can't do that, but there are spiders that electricity is not a problem for them. Like their bodies conduct it, right? So they can walk on live circuits and they won't get fried. They won't get fried. Yeah. So they based all of his new ideas and powers on things they found in the arthropod spider kingdom, which is scary and weird all at the same time.
Right, but also didn't make him just this, a new...
No, it wasn't a carbon copy.
Yeah, I was going to say, he wasn't just Peter Parker again.
Exactly. And that was refreshing. You're right. I mean, that was something that was at the time interesting. There was a lot of backlash about it.
Sure.
Because, again, racist trolls are racist trolls, and they hate progress. But it was at an era when even Marvel started to take note of the idea of diversifying its line, right? Because right around the time Miles was created was also around the time we got Jane picking up Thor's hammer. It was also around the time we got Falcon becoming Captain America. So there was a lot of Miles, I think, is responsible for a lot of the diversity that we see in comics now. Right. And that's not to say diversity's never been part of comics. It's always been a part of comics. I mean, Black Panther is one of the oldest characters on the Avengers.
Right.
I mean, he's not as old as Cap and Tony,
Sure.
but he's up there, right? So there's always been diversity. Carol, Miss Marvel. I mean, she was Miss Marvel before she was Captain Marvel, but she's always been a pretty normal mainstay on the team. So there's been diversity within this story, but I think Miles created this explosion of it in the modern era that, you know, take it or leave it. Some people were angry and some people embraced it. Me personally, I embraced it. I loved some of the stories they were telling at the time. I mean, Jane as Thor was a great story.
No, it was fucking cool.
It really was. Whether you were okay with Thor being replaced or not, you can't deny that story was well written, well drawn, and compelling.
I mean, the whole concept just made sense.
Yeah.
And that's why I was cool with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
worthy.
Yeah. Like, just run with it.
Yeah. So like I said, I think Miles was kind of the first. Miles was the first where, no, we got backlash, but we don't care. We're going to do it because we think the audience, 90% of the audience is going to like it. Yeah, there's going to be those 10% that are trolls and assholes, but 90% of the audience is going to enjoy this. And we worked in a comic shop, both of us.
Yep.
So we saw we worked in the comic shop at that time. So we saw that most fans were excited. We're on board. They were like, what? That's awesome. Falcon's going to be Captain America? I'm in. Let's make sure I get that book.
I think a lot of fans were excited to have something different happening.
Exactly.
But here's why people get pissed off. They're like, you can't just rewrite this character. Well, they're not.
We're not. This is a brand new character.
It's the storyline of that character has progressed to a point to where this is where they are now.
Yeah.
If you're doing that with natural arcs and progressions that makes sense,
yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah.
And if you don't read comic books, don't say anything.
Well, sure. And if you're one of those people that's angry that these characters don't represent you or don't look like you, there's characters that do. They didn't go anywhere. Iron Man is still a thing. Hell, even Cap was still a thing at the time. Right, he got old, but he was still a regular mainstay. He led the Secret Avengers. So that's the idea, right? Like, I had all these people getting angry, and I'm just like, well, so maybe this comic's not for you. Maybe just read a comic that is. Why can't we all be represented in this medium, right? Why can't everyone look at this medium and go, oh, that character reminds me of me? Why can't we have that? Why does it have to be restricted to, vanilla white dudes? Why can't it be more than that? Why can't it be both, right? Why can't you have your vanilla white dudes and you have your diversity? Why can't you have both? We do have both. We've never said, well, we're getting rid of all the old characters and only the characters that are going to be are new. In fact, the MCU has done that.
Right.
The MCU has retired those older characters. Cap is old. Tony's dead. Thor is on his last leg.
I think it's easier for people to accept with a movie because of actors and blah 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 than it is a made up character, because they don't look at it.
It's all made up though.
They don't look at it right, but they don't look at it as they look at it as something that is forever, and it isn't. Nothing is.
Right.
The fact that we have Peter Parker as Spider-Man for 60 years is obscene.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't have Peter Parker.
Sure.
But why can't you also have Miles?
Right.
We've talked about it on this show before. Everybody, comics for years and years and years, since comics have been a thing, have always been about showing a counter narrative, a counter idea, counter culture. Right. And if you didn't get that along the way, I don't know. I got nothing for you. I don't know. You need to get your brain checked out, because it's always been this way. Is it more pronounced now? Yes, but that's not because comics have changed. That's because public perception of these things have changed, right? How many people are spoon-fed on a day-to-day basis how well, everything's too woke and blah, 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 blah. And is some of that true? Yes. But is some of it just overblown nonsense? Absolutely. Right? So we're fed this like steady diet of this. So now when we see it everywhere, we lump it all into the same kind of, box. We don't think, what is it about this story that bred this diversity? We just think it's diversity. I hate it. Why?
Well, and that's I don't think everybody looks at it and thinks it's diversity. I hate it. Like I'm gonna give.
Oh, no, I know.
I'm gonna give the the general person the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, the larger part of fans are fine. They enjoy what they do.
I'm even saying some people that are outraged by it. It's because they don't understand it. They don't know.
Right.
They don't know. They have no idea that people's roles in that universe have shifted over the last, even 10 years, over the last decade. This character was doing one thing and now they're doing something totally different in this medium. And I know that you don't understand that because you don't read it.
Well, yeah, and most people aren't even, newscasters especially, aren't even going to bother to do the research necessary. No. When John Kent, son of Kal-El, came out as bi, I literally watched Dean Cain, the man who used to play Superman on television, on Fox News talking about how, well, they're making Superman gay. So it's terrible. It's ruining I'm just like, you don't even know what you're talking about, man. That's not Superman. First of all, that's Superman's son. You didn't even do the research to make sure your facts were straight. It's nonsense. It's garbage.
Well, and I think that's the thing. Like if you're not invested in the medium in any way,
just shut up.
Yeah. Not your problem.
Right. Why is this national news to begin with?
Oh, it's fucking not. But it's also,
most of your viewers don't give a shit about Superman. You know what I mean? Like
all they care about is that Henry Cavill keeps playing him.
Yeah, well, that's something that
everybody
gets so angry about. I don't understand that at all. They want to skew younger, and I'm fine with that. I'm excited about it.
I get it.
Yeah. In any case, the Ultimate Universe, limped on after that. All the stories weren't great. Miles was consistently good throughout that. Right. The Ultimates books took a dive. The Fantastic Four took a little bit of a dive, but then when they turned Reed, their version of Reed, into a villain called the Maker, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, wait, what? So like that came back around. The X-Men stuff,
legit, super fast, yeah.
Yeah, the X-Men stuff did some weird stuff, and as it limped to the end, Ultimates was good. Hickman started writing that. That was during the era when they made Captain America president of the United States.
Okay.
So that was an interesting thing that came about kind of toward the latter half of this, and then Hickman started writing. In 2012, 2013, Hickman started writing Avengers and New Avengers. Mm-hmm. So that took him away from the Ultimate Universe. And it was clear what he was building during that was to his Secret Wars story, which was going to destroy the Ultimate Universe. We were done with this. But Marvel saw at least a few of the properties that were doing very well that people still seemed to resonate with.
Your Miles Morales and whatnot. Yeah.
So we kept Miles when the universe and his whole family when the universe went down. We kept Jimmy Hudson, who was Wolverine's son. So it was like a younger version of Wolverine, claws and everything. We kept Nick Fury, the ultimate version of Nick Fury, stayed around.
Yeah.
We kept the Maker, the villainous Reed, which turned out to be great. It's why the Ultimate Universe is coming back, because the Maker's kind of been in the background doing all these things. The Council, he approached the Council of Reeds. He wants to be on the Council of Reeds. He thinks every Reed thinks they deserve to be on the Council.
Right.
They're all arrogant dicks. But they came to him and they basically said, like, look, we want you to be on the council and we welcome it. But no Reed, this was Reed Prime's line, was no Reed stands on a broken universe. So if you want to be on our council, you got to find your universe. You got to get it back somehow. So that's what he's been in the background doing, and that's kind of how they're bringing it back. But Secret Wars wiped it out. I mean, Secret Wars destroyed and restructured all continuity into a new multiverse. Hickman was at the center of that. And so we talked about it in the Comics Pro episode. I'm glad he's the one that's been tapped to bring it back. I feel like they just let that guy do whatever he wants at this point.
Oh yeah.
He's so good.
I think he'll say some off the wall shit.
They'll say good idea.
To see if he can get away with it. And then they're like, you can do that? And he's like, yeah. And then he goes home and he's like, fuck.
Now I got to plan this. Yeah, I feel like they just let that guy do whatever he wants now. He's such a good writer.
He does a good job with it.
I mean, he's one of those guys in our era, in our generation, that we'll still be talking about 30 years from now.
I mean, yeah, it's like a Stanley or a Jack Kirby.
I was honestly going to say he's your Alan Moore or your Frank Miller.
Oh, no, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Alan Moore and Frank Miller were the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby of their generation.
They were.
You know what I mean?
No, they were. And that's what's cool is, I guess we do have that now.
Yeah. These are our guys. I mean, guys like Jeff Johns, guys like Bendis, guys like Hickman. These are the guys we will still be talking about 30 years from now. When we look back and we say, back in my day in comics.
Yeah, when
comics are completely different from what they are right now, we'll look like the old idiots,
It'll be like this projection. You know how Iron Man has that interface that goes over his face in the movies? It'll be like that, and that's how they read comics.
That's how they'll read them.
They'll just
swipe.
They'll look left or right, and that's what'll turn pages for them.
Yeah. Someday when we're old men and we're reminiscing about the better time in comics.
I remember when they were made out of paper.
Well, and I think it's funny, right? Because one of the things I like to take pride in as a comic fan is the diversity. I enjoy the diversity. I take that as a point of pride as a fan of how diverse it is and how it's always been that way. But it's funny, right, to think about how the brain will evolve to where back in my day, we had girls carrying Thor's hammer and we had black guys carrying Captain America's shield, and they'll be like, Grandpa, you're an idiot.
Yeah, stop being racist.
And that will sound that way coming from us to them, right? Because that's how it sounds coming from our parents to us.
Right.
It's insane to me. I don't want to be that guy. By the time I'm that age, I think I might just shut up and not say anything anymore.
Oh, stop it. You don't have the ability.
I think once I'm an old man, I think I might.
I'll find it. You're like, I'll find it.
Yeah, but you guys out there, I can't shut up. So.
It's a fun thing that we do, though. Like, we don't shut up.
No. I just want to keep talking.
So, we are going to put a pin in it here.
Yeah.
We are going to come back to... I think we're going to do a little more with comics over these next couple of weeks here. So stay tuned for that. Also,
leave us a comment. What do you want to hear us talk about? We've read a lot of comics between us.
Yeah. What are your favorite series?
What are your favorite comics? Maybe we'll put one of those. We
can try to give some commentary.
Do a commentary list. Yeah.
Go to entertainthegeeky.com/book club. And you can join the book club with us. All you got to do, pick up a copy of your book there. Well, you're reserving it now. We will place the order through Altered State Comics, and you will have your book. All orders are going to go out sometime after the 30th when ordering closes on the website. So the 30th of March, 2023, this month right now.
Yes.
Clarification.
Is it still going to be March when this episode goes up?
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding.
These go up fast.
I'm kidding. It's just funny to think about because we're recording, and then at a future date, you'll be watching.
Yeah, I know. But it'll be Friday. Friday, they'll be watching this.
Okay, good.
So, yeah. Anywho, hang out, do the book club with us. You can read all the details on how the book club works when you go to the entertainthegeeky.com/book club. It gives a full rundown on what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a live stream with the book. All of the details, again, are on that webpage. So thank you. As always, stay geeky.
I don't know why I winked there.
Will this be up? Yeah, dude, I'm doing a good job of keeping that shit up.
No, I'm just giving you shit.
No, it's I did not get video put up Friday, and it bummed me out because the way that I schedule this is Wednesday's podcast comes out, and then Friday's video comes out. My thought process was, well, Friday night movie blockbusters, and Wednesdays when new comics come out. So that's when they're getting entertained the geeky.
Okay.
I could have done it for any day of the week because originally I was like, I think videos should come out on Tuesdays because that's when Blockbuster got new releases.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
disgusting.
How do
you remember
it's
that?
disgusting to know that. I know. I spent a lot of fucking money at Blockbuster. So yeah,
I feel like I rented a lot of things from Blockbuster, and some things that I never gave them back that still have Blockbuster stickers on them.
Damn right. I frequented their previously viewed movies
Oh, I bought
It was
brand new movies for
incredible.
ridiculous discounts. Yeah.
I mean, were they brand new? No, a couple people rented it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when I say brand new, I mean released within the last month,
Right.
Because they would get so many that within the first month they were putting those for sale stickers on some
The
of them.
previously viewed
Yeah,
ones,
yeah,
and
the
you
for
get it
sale
for like
stickers.
$9.99
Yeah, I
or
mean,
whatever. and it's
sometimes
like,
cheaper.
Oh yeah. Oh no. They
I
for sure went
definitely got
cheaper.
like dollar movies from them
Oh yeah.
sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, it was incredible. Well, they made their money off of it. They didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
I did previously played games there.
I don't think I ever bought any games from Blockbuster. I rented a lot of games from Blockbuster.
Totally bought some.
And I was definitely one of those kids that was on the phone with Blockbuster sometimes saying, "Hey, extend my rental because I'm not done." Thanks. Bye.
Oh, you would do rental extensions.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, because you would essentially they would just put a note on your account that you owe them for another rental.
Right.
Right. So it's like, no, I'm going to keep this for another week.
Instead of getting the ridiculous late fee.
Right. So
Yeah.
instead of, at this point, riding my skateboard or my bike down to Blockbuster, I'd just call them and tell them, "Hey, this is Jason. I'm going to extend my rental for another week."
Do you remember when they started their online service that was incredible? So you could order movies online. When they arrived to your house, you could watch them, take them to the store, and trade them out for movies in store, and it didn't cost you anything extra.
Yes.
That was one of the greatest fucking things ever.
It was an early,
It was to combat Netflix.
it was an early competitor with Netflix, was trying to say like, "Oh God, these guys are killing us in this market. We got to do something."
Yeah, it's because Netflix did the $9.99 and they sent you 3 DVDs or whatever, and that was huge.
Well, I think that the big difference in Netflix that they had over family videos and your Blockbusters and your whatevers was keep it as long as you want.
Yep.
Here it is, and whenever you're done with it, send it back, and we'll send you the next thing. Right? Like Blockbuster, you got 5 days, and if it's a new release, you got 2 days.
Right. Better watch this fucking thing.
You got
soon.
2 days, and then you got to get it back to me.
We're gonna need this so somebody else can have 2 days with it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think that was what killed Blockbuster. That was what killed chain video rental stores, was the idea that, here's your movie, keep it till you're done.
I mean, streaming was the final nail in the coffin there.
But I think that was the early like, oh shit, we're fucked kind of.
Yeah, I thought the way Blockbuster combated that was really good. Like as far as Netflix did not have a storefront that you could walk into
Right.
to switch those movies out. So it didn't
true.
matter to me.
Right.
You send me a movie, I'll watch it the day it arrives.
Yeah.
And I'll fucking take it back and get a new one. And it was just, I think it was like $20 a month, and you could basically trade movies out as often
Right.
as you want. It was
For sure.
fucking incredible.
Yeah, but they still had late fees. They still did late fees.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
that was the problem, right? I think that was their one of their downfalls.
Sure.
Was, look, sometimes the movie being returned late my fault? Yeah, absolutely. But sometimes you don't think about things. You just forget things, right? Like you put it on your shelf and you don't even think about it until you go back to that shelf 4 weeks later. You're like, ah, shit.
That also falls into the my fault category.
Well, I understand that. But what I'm saying is it's easy in the hustle and bustle
Sure.
of day-to-day life
Doing real
to lose
life,
track
yeah.
of things. Netflix didn't care. If you had that copy of Pretty in Pink for 2 years, doesn't matter. Send it back.
You just weren't getting any more movies.
Right. Send it back and we'll send you the next movie.
When they were still getting their $10 a month out of you.
Exactly. Right. Like,
it
so
didn't matter.
it doesn't even matter. Keep it as long as you. It's why I still use GameFly.
Really?
Yeah. What do you mean?
I didn't think GameFly was still a thing.
GameFly is absolutely still a thing. Are you kidding me?
No shit. Do they send hard copies?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
GameFly.
I just feel like I got in a time machine.
You gonna load? Oh, there we go.
No fucking way.
My phone's not gonna load, I guess.
There it
There
is.
it is. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. GameFly. My queue. My queue is where my games are.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I currently have the Cowabunga collection. But then I have my whole list here of things that,
That's fucking sick.
they'll send me. Yeah. They also do this new thing called Game Lock where they'll send you an email whenever a new game's about to release. And if you get your game in the mail within like 24 hours back to them, they'll guarantee that you'll get a new copy sent to your house for launch day
Oh, that's badass.
of a new game sent to your house for launch day. I've done it a couple of times. But one of the big reasons I like it so much
is this little button that says keep. Right?
Oh, that's brilliant.
If you hold on to a game long enough, the keep price will drop. I bought Mass Effect Andromeda for $1.50. Now, truth be told, that game was terrible, so it was probably going to get that cheap anyway in regular stores. But it doesn't matter. Like, I got Doom Eternal from them. I rented it. I kept it for so long. One day I was looking on there to see what my next game was because I was thinking about sending Doom Eternal back, and it was like, keep Doom Eternal for $10. And I was just like, yeah. And they mail you the case.
Oh,
for
that's
it.
fucking cool.
Yeah, because they have the cases, right? Like,
Right. They're just
they have
sitting
to
there.
buy the games. Yeah. So, like, they'll mail you the case for it. It's awesome. It's really cool.
Gamefly just got a plug.
Yeah, they're not paying me or anything, but
Thanks,
like, it's cool.
Gamefly.
Gamefly's cool.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
All right. I do got to get going, though.